Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I apologize if there's some slight acoustical changes, done some rearranging here. Hopefully it's okay though. But I had a subscriber ask a question, which I will flip in here for you guys. And he basically wants to know, given all that I've said about exercises that move the body through space and the benefits of them, would it be possible for someone to make an all calisthenics program, including using weighted calisthenics, obviously weighted vest, chains, things like that, to add resistance to those? So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about those. Now, I've said in the past that pure calisthenics work isn't always the best way to build muscle and strength by itself, meaning without resistance added. But to answer his question, when you start talking about adding resistance to calisthenic work, that becomes a whole different animal. In fact, we could argue a large number of benefits of that. So let me break some of that down, then I'll break down the weaknesses of this sort of training. As far as what was suggested here, I like the concept though. But it is important to remember you do lose some things by dropping out barbell work. So as far as this goes, let me rehash some of this for some people who aren't familiar with it. As I've said in the past, the Russians back during the Cold War did a lot of research on this stuff, trying to beat us and get better athletes than us, and they were very successful. One of the things that all the Russians concluded during the Cold War was that they noted a different response in the body, an overall training response, anabolic response, hormonal response to their observations. And again, some of this stuff is hard to get because you've got to translate some of their stuff from Russian. But they concluded that exercises that move the body through space in some way tend to be superior. Now, when they say move the body through space, that doesn't mean always the full load of your body through space, meaning it doesn't have to be a dip or a chin-up, but dips and chin-ups were included in there. That also includes things like squats, power cleans, deadlifts, all those exercises with a barbell to where the body moves through space. And what they noted, they felt that in some way the body moving against gravity was an impact, maybe hormonally. That remains a more controversial area, meaning we don't have enough evidence at this point to really go into that further. Again, maybe the Russians have it, but it's never been fully broken down to my knowledge. But what we do note is that when you start moving the body through space, your body involves more stabilizer muscles, and it starts involving other muscles that aren't always part of the movement. And examples of what I mean, all right, when you do a lat pull down, it's primarily a bicep, brachialis, forearm, lat, rear delt, rhomboid, mid-trap exercise, right? But when you do weighted chin-ups, all of those muscles get worked as well. The biceps get worked even more. But they note some strange things. There are other muscles that become involved to the point to where they light up on an EMG, meaning they're getting decent stimulation. Doesn't mean they're getting maximum stimulation. Doesn't mean they're getting the best in the world, but things like the long head of the tricep get activated on a chin-up. Now, do they get activated as much as if you did a tricep extension where you have shoulder extension involved? No, not quite as much, but is it still enough to make them develop and grow? Yeah, hypothetically, yes. How about the upper chest? The upper pecs, the pectoralis minor, seem to get recruited decently, as a decent recruiter. Not an amazing recruiter, but pretty decently recruited. On the chin-up, it's been noted, the abdominals get worked very, very heavily. They light up on an EMG with any sort of weighted chin-up. Same thing when you go over to dips. When you go over to dips, you see stabilizers, other muscles get involved. That aren't necessarily primary movers. They get recruited very, very heavily. It's been noted in the data, EMG data. Go look at all this stuff. Like Brett Contreras did a bunch of stuff on this. There's other people out there, but he's got some decent stuff out there. Now, I'm not saying that EMG data is your be-all, end-all, because it's not. There are flaws and limitations to this type of research. But it's a good starting point to work from. But what we note, when you start noting other muscles that get involved, any exercise that moves the body through space recruits more muscles, different muscles through the body, get worked pretty decently. And I mean, no one's going to complain about having more long head of their tricep or upper chest. Chin-ups give you that advantage. So the whole point is that a lot of these exercises work more muscles than they in theory should versus their stationary counterparts, things to where your body and torso don't move at all. They simply don't recruit as many different muscles. Now, a lot of people who are chasing bodybuilding type dreams would argue that's a good thing because they want to isolate muscles. But the truth is, these things are added bonus. It's not like your biceps get recruited less on a chin up than on a lat pull down, or your lats. Think about it. Plenty of guys have built amazing lats off the chin up. They're a fantastic recruiter. They don't get worked less just because these other muscles come in. The other muscles are icing on the cake. They're a free bonus. You need to think about it that way. So when we start looking at some of this calisthenic stuff, there's something to this. Weighted calisthenics can be a fantastic form of exercise, because when you think about it, if you're doing several different exercises like that that move the body through space, you could pretty much develop your entire body. The only thing I think it's lacking is going to be a true deadlift. And I think that you need a true deadlift to build full body power through your body. Now, we could argue hypertrophy, not necessarily. But I think a deadlift is required for full body strength and power. But, you know, a lot of these things, what could you do that are calisthenic type exercises and still get overall development? Okay, how about chin-ups? All right, chin-ups. You could do weighted chin-ups, weighted dips. You could do handstands. Hell, push presses even with things that you pick up. That still qualifies. Your body's moving through space. So if you were to clean up heavy objects and push press them, you could do that. But the argument could be made, why wouldn't you just do it with a barbell? So that's where we start running into arguments for some of this stuff. The same thing. You could do one-legged weighted squats with heavy bags, rocks, and things that you pick up. But again, the argument can be made when we get to some of these exercises, why wouldn't you just use a barbell? The whole point is the benefit of moving your body through space. There's no point to removing an effective adjustable weight training tool. All right? But as far as everything else, the other thing people say, well, maybe the hamstrings aren't going to get fully developed. Well, they can. The glute ham raise, particularly weighted ones, are one of the most effective hamstring builders in the world. In fact, many top athletes do them. Many strength and conditioning coaches have field athletes do these for better knee stability and better hamstring strength to reduce injury on a playing field. And you can build enormous hamstrings off of a weighted glute ham raise. It's a calisthenic movement. So yeah, you could develop your entire body very effectively, very easily doing this. It's a good way. But the only argument that we could make is calisthenics are an amazing tool in the tool bag because they involve so many stabilizers. They turn compound movements into more effective compound movements. But why would you remove weights? Like, why would anyone think that they need to take an easily available, readily available tool like a barbell, an adjustable barbell, in which you can fine-tune your progression? You could add 5 pounds, you could add 2.5 pounds. You can fine-tune the amount of weight that you're adding. Why would you remove that just to specifically eschew weights? There's no benefit to doing that. And that's the problem with calisthenic-only routines. It is harder to develop your lower body. You lose the ability to do a true deadlift. And the biggest problem is that you lose the benefits of an adjustable barbell to let you carefully control your progression, how much weight you're moving. You're losing a benefit for no trade-off. And I think that's where people get hung up when they find various effective tools. People do this all the time. They'll find something that's an amazing tool that is really useful for a wide variety of applications, but then they'll make the assumption that using other tools with it together concurrently that are also more effective at certain things, that they want to get rid of those other tools. And I think that's a terrible way to approach training. I don't think people should be so dogmatic they say, okay, A works amazingly well, and even though all the data suggests B works amazingly well together, why can't I use both of these tools? They'll use only A. And in this case, the idea of doing only calisthenics, even though calisthenics and weighted calisthenics have pretty fantastic benefits. I mean, they're fucking fantastic. Let's just be frank. I mean, weighted chin-ups, weighted dips, glute ham raises, these are amazing exercises that have tremendous strength, full body power, and full body hypertrophy potential. I mean, they can really do an amazing a number of things for you. They're absolutely indispensable tools. But when you step back and say, well, they're the only tools I'm going to use because they're so amazing, that's just silly. Why would you limit yourself to doing just that when you could also incorporate some heavy barbell work where you could fine-tune your programming and progression? You can do things like deadlifts and micro-load at 5 pounds at a time. You could do barbell squats. then I think you're onto something. If someone were to say, I want to do a bunch of weighted calisthenics, but then I want to add in a couple of heavy barbell exercises because I want to be powerful, explosive, big, all those things, then I think people are really getting it. I think that's the winning ticket for what most people want to do for overall athleticism. Like, you don't want to just be big and lean, you want overall athleticism. I think the combination of big, heavy barbell movements combined with weighted calisthenics, I think that's a winning combination. I don't think people should completely disregard one or the other just because they really like one. I think if you want to do the best possible, I think the combination of the two is going to work a lot better. I think that's your winning ticket. And I think that's the thing, is that people find one or the other and they think, wow, this works amazingly well, so I'm going to disregard the other one. But when you use them together, they're even more effective. And I think that's a good way to look at it. You don't use only a screw or only use a hammer. You use the two when you're building things, and use the appropriate tool for the job to get the job done most effectively. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.